Good evening, my friends. This is Angy Stewart from Mia Inner Light, and we are live here in Kardec Radio. Tonight is 9:04 at this moment, Thursday night. Super happy to be with you guys. Our program happens once a month, every first Thursday of the month. And we study this beautiful book, Heaven and Hell. This is a very powerful book that few people will study, few people actually know about it. So everybody knows about the Spirit's book, the Gospel, and the Medium's book, and that's it. The rest of the codification, nobody pays attention. And this book is so important. It's actually very much connected with the Medium's book. We are at this moment studying the first part of the book. So we are having all this understanding about the many facts that in the 1800s were like these big things, these big dogmas of churches. And the Kardec analyzes it in a way to bring Spiritism to it, to help us to understand how it was in that time, how it is now. So we have a comparison. So that's why it's important. The second part is super interesting because the second part of this book is when the spirits come and they tell us about their lives. How was waking up in the spiritual realm, how different was for them. So this is really a big study for us, especially to the ones that never participate in the mediumistic meetings. It's really, really interesting. So you have to stay with us so you will be able to participate and understand a little bit better too. So while our friends start joining, let's do our initial prayer. Then I will welcome everybody and I can bring our guests for tonight. Very good. So let's do our prayer really quickly and we can start. God, our Mother and Father, Jesus, our dear brother, all the good spirits that are with us, we would like to ask for your protection, your guidance, your inspiration to help not just myself and my friends, but also every person that will be listening live and to the ones that will be listening to this as a recording program. So each one of us will be able to fully understand, to open up our hearts, to make comments, questions, and we can all learn together. Thank you so much. So be it. Very good, my friends. I hope you have your water bottle. Look at the size of my water bottle. It's important to drink water. It is important to drink water, even more if it's blessed water, we need it. That's very important. So let me just say hello. So if you are here, if you are watching us through Facebook or YouTube, please just write something, say your name or say hello, because I cannot see that you are online if you don't write something. But the ones who already wrote, very nice to have you here. Mary, Erica, Juan, Yvonne, this is awesome. I hope you guys are going to participate with us and help us. This chapter is very important and has a lot of content, a lot of important content. I hope we can make it today. So let's see if we can do our best job. So let's bring our guests. Hello, Teresa.
Hello, Angie. And
So happy to have you
Enlightened.
here.
Glad to be here again. It's been a long, long time.
Yes, it's true. You actually were supposed to be with us before, but I think your internet had problems. I don't remember. And then we couldn't have you. So I'm happy you're here with
Yeah, it was a
us.
big storm. Some things we can't control.
Where are you now? Which
So
city?
I live in Vermont. I'm in Brattleboro, Vermont, which is southern Vermont. So
My
we're still
God.
wearing sweaters here and with our heaters on.
I can't imagine. Look at us, t-shirts in Miami. You have to come here, Teresa. Come down, come down.
I do at this time of the year. I definitely think of
Yeah, this
you.
time of the year. Well, this time must be nicer for us to go up because I can't go in the winter. Winter would be a little too much for me. But now maybe, with a lot of jackets, I could go up. I know Vermont
Hmm.
is beautiful. I would love to one day to visit.
Oh, we'd
Anyway,
love to have you.
we have Nora. Hello, Nora.
Hi, friends. I'm laughing because I'm from Texas. So just like the hairs all over, so is the weather. So today I'm wearing a sweater because
Mm.
it's cold today. Yesterday we were 90 degrees, and today we're down to 50s.
Wow, my goodness. Yeah, I have a friend that lives in Houston, and she also said that sometimes the morning is very cold, the afternoons are super hot, and in the evening is really cold. Again, I'm like, wow, that's
Oh my
a lot of
God.
fluctuation there.
Yes.
Super happy to have you here also, Nora. Long, long time I don't have these two ladies with us, so this is going to be really good. Okay,
Oh,
my friends, you are all welcome to put your questions or messages or anything so we can make this study a little bit more live. And so we are going. This is Heaven and Hell. We are doing chapter 7 tonight. So the title of chapter 7 is The Spiritist View of Future Punishment. So it's important for us to understand punishment. In the concept of the 1800, is more or less like something that you have to be punished. You did something that's not good, you have to be punished for that. But nowadays the concept is more like your own your own conscience is the one that is going to ask for you to how can I say, to rescue this debt.
mm.
Little strange to explain, but it's not punishment, because when we talk about punishment, in our minds is someone, and this someone would be God, who is slap, slap, slap. You did something bad, and then God is punishing you. But it's not really true. God is not punishing anyone. We are the ones that in our conscience we will keep everything good, and everything not very good we did. And usually when we go to the spiritual realm, we have this awaken, and then we realize when we actually did something wrong. Usually when we are on earth, we don't feel anything. We think we are absolutely perfect and sweethearts to everyone. But when we arrive in the spiritual realm, then we start like, yeah, I wasn't that nice. But as I always do, I will read a little bit of the first portion, and then we are going to go through it pretty quickly, because the important portion of this study is really the penal code of the life to come, or the penal code of the future life. So it's very interesting, all the points that Kardec put in here. And I hope we can quickly comment each one of them, but they are 33 points. There's a lot of points.
Mm.
I
You
like
think?
points. Okay, let's go. The
Okay.
flesh is weak. Okay. Among the vicious tendencies of mankind, there are some that are evidently inherent in the soul, because they belong rather to the moral than to the physical nature. Others, such as the predisposition to anger, laziness, sensuality, etc., or they appear to be rather results of the human organization, and for this reason, men are apt to regard them as something for which they are less responsible. I just want to read a little bit more. It is admitted at the present day by the philosophers of the spiritualist school that the cerebral organs that correspond to the various mental aptitudes owe their development to the activity of the soul, and that consequently this development is an effect and not a cause. For instance, a man is not a musician because he was the bump of music. The bump, yeah, the bump of music. But he has the bump of music simply because the spirit is already a musician.
Mm.
And so, of all the other bumps and the faculties. So, this is rather confusing to most of people. So, girls, did you understand this first portion? Can you explain like in easier ways to our phenomenal guests that are here looking at us? How can we
Thank
start?
you.
How can we
Yeah,
start?
I really think this part, the main emphasis is for us to understand that everything that manifests in our life comes from the spirit. And so it's and also I like that they say here the word about blame. So that helps us to stop, oh, it's this angry God that's doing this to me, or I'm being victimized. No, that we come to understand, just like you said, Angie, the spirit is already has already received or achieved that level of being a musician. And so that's why it can manifest it. It's not because just how they said the opposite. It's not because they have some gift. No, they've achieved it. So it's and so God doesn't have play favoritism. That we're all born simple and ignorant, and when we have these so-called punishments, we can start to look at them as opportunities to grow our spirit because that's really what they're about. They're not punishments. We've been conditioned, and you know believing that this is all there is, this only body, then we think, oh, how come that person's rich and I'm not? Or how come I have to, have, my ability for running isn't as strong as somebody else's.
Yes.
It's all about it manifests from the spirit. That's why we can safely say today most illnesses, most manifestations are coming from the spirit. Now, we won't say all because we really can't judge that, and there's so many possibilities. But what Kardec is teaching us here is that the principle is that manifestations come from the spirit. It's not the other way around. It's when we have our thoughts and our mind that it's manifestations from our spirit. It's not that our thoughts are that it's going the other way. It's not that the body manifests the spirit. No,
Yes.
it's the spirit manifests through the body. The body's like a filter. So I hope that makes it a little bit more understandable. I like the idea of making us responsible, and it's not about clobbering us on the head, but it's like changing our mindset instead of you know punishment and being victim, to see it as a blessing and an opportunity to grow our soul, because that's why we're here. And guess what? Who dominates this planet? Imperfect spirits. I'm an imperfect spirit. And so this idea that that I should be surprised or be feel sorry for myself because I don't have a title like somebody else. It takes that all away, because then I realize we all have our own path in life, and everything is a learning opportunity, right? So someone has a title, someone else doesn't, but we need to look, what is my learning opportunity? What does this tell me about myself? And I like here that it talks about temperament, and to explain to us that it's not because I have this or that temperament, a melancholic or a very happy temperament. It's because my spirit is the nature that it is, that I express this temperament. So again, it teaches us not to blame, like, oh, well, I'm just that way and I'm melancholic, so I need to behave this way. No, So and I think Juan is asking, the only general law is that every wrong will be punished and every meritorious act will be rewarded according to its worth. Nice. Thank you, Juan. That sums it up. Why didn't you invite him, Angie?
Yeah, Juan, you're next.
I just wanted to add this idea of like the cause and effect, right? And how beautifully it's perspective for us. It says here it's an effect, not a cause. So when we put ourselves, like you said, Teresa, in that mindset of the spiritual stemming from that, we start to see that not everything that happens, it's like there's a cause for it. Sometimes we're like, oh, I must have done something in the past life, or we sometimes we find that, and it's great to do self reflection and you know becomes um, those self-paced spiritual learners, right? It's important to do that, but at the same time to understand that the things that we have today are an effect of something. So even what we are creating today, what we're doing today, will at one point be that bump, right? Will be that effect in another life. So it's like this parallel, simultaneous thing where my actions today have consequences tomorrow. But it's okay. Let's say today, maybe we don't have everything, or we see someone that has is the famous people, and then we look at them and what is it that they did, and why do I feel like I'm being punished? And I think that
Yeah.
idea of the cause and effect and working with that, it's a tremendous mind shift paradigm right there. I was like, that's very powerful. Yeah.
Yes. No, this is very very good, very important, and the both of you mentioned this is for us. It's really like for example, you have a good mother and father. A good mother and father are gonna teach you how to behave. For example, so they are not gonna pass the hand on your head. Okay, sweetheart. Okay, you went to my friend's house. You broke everything, but it's fine. No. Are you kidding? No, the good mother and father wouldn't do that. They would say, you don't do that. And of course, would stop this child before continue doing more damage, and would have to teach this child not to repeat. And any one of us, when we are learning something, sometimes it feels like painful because it's difficult, it's not pleasant, it's something like, oh, we drag, so it feels like pain, it feels like a punishment. But in reality, after you overcome that, then it becomes a bliss, it becomes easy. You overcome that difficulty that maybe it was much harder to certain people than to others. But what happened is that we can all achieve it. And it's always important how you perceive, how you see it. Because we start saying, oh, poor me, I'm the only one who suffers. Oh, it's not true. We all go through pain. The difference is that maybe what is very difficult and painful for me, it's not anymore to Teresa or to, because they overcame that. So we three go through the same pain. Maybe for me, it's gonna be, oh God, it's so hard, it's so difficult. And Teresa's like, yeah, it's not good, but okay, let's do it. Okay, fine. One thing that's very funny, I remember when I was young, like pre-teenager, young teenager, my mother sometimes asked me to clean certain things, and like for example, the sink full of vegetables and all kind of messed up stuff. I remember feeling so disgusted. For me, it was almost like vomiting. Like, and then it's very funny nowadays. So I'm like, if I need to clean something, I look at that. Oh, okay. I just wash my hands. Like, I go clean, blah, 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 and then I throw everything in the garbage. Then I put some soap and done. And my son is like, ah, and it's like it's funny because I was there, but nowadays it's not a problem for me anymore. But I remember when I was a teenager, ooh, exactly him. So I overcame this, and nowadays I'm like, fine, no problem. If I don't have gloves, it's okay. But this is life. We learn. So
Mm.
let's quickly move. What can we start talking about? The sources of the Spiritist doctrine of future punishment. One word. One word. What are the sources?
The sources.
Mediumship.
Oh,
Um,
Mediumship is the source. We don't need to do anything because
yes.
mediumship teaches us what are the future punishments. Because in the mediumship meetings, and that I had the opportunity to participate. So many people already participated. I hope you girls had joined some of these meetings. But the spirits come most of the time in pain, and
Mhm.
they want to tell you why they are angry. Most of the time they come because they are angry with someone, so they come crying, or they come cursing, and they tell you this person so and so did this and this, or they already understood how they lived. When I was on earth, I did this and this. And when I didn't believe in spiritism, I didn't believe in spirit. Some of them even say I didn't even believe in afterlife. So when I woke up, I couldn't understand. A lot of the spirits, they don't even understand they died, because
Mm.
they see things, and they feel so material that they think people are crazy, and they just want to talk to them. I know it sounds funny for us, but it's true. They feel like this. But nowadays that we have mediumship, we already have the sources. And as Teresa mentioned, we can't say this happened to this spirit, so every spirit will go through it, because it's not true. It's all, we are all different. We all go through different issues, and we will resolve them in different ways. In addition to it, God is so merciful that God really tries to help us as much as possible. But the big source for us to understand what could happen is really mediumship. And then we come to the most important part, that is the penal code of the life to come or future life. So this portion, it's important. So I'm just going to read one sentence, and then we're going to start all the items. Maybe we can do most of them.
Mhm.
So Kardec wrote, it's a logical deduction from the observation of facts made known to us by statements of innumerable spirits. Its principal points may be summed up as follows. And that's when Kardec starts. So, point number one. Point number one, he starts basically with consequences of various imperfections. We are, as I think Teresa said, we are all imperfect. We have so many things to improve, and we have to continue improving. And each reincarnation is a blessing, because each reincarnation we become a little bit better. Of
Mhm.
course, people are able to become a lot better. Like imagine Chico Xavier, the famous Brazilian medium. He really, but it's not everyone that is capable of it. But the important thing the Spiritism teaches us is that we do not regress, so we don't become worse than what we are, or we become stationary, that's the lazy spirits, or we
Right.
improve. And of course there are so many things we have to improve, that for some people it seems like we are not improving at all, but it's not true. There is always improvement. Okay, I talk so much. I have to leave you guys to talk, but let me just read what our friend said here. So Juan said, the only general law is that every wrong will be punished, and every Meritorious act will be rewarded according to its worth. Yes, one, perfect. That's how
Mhm.
it is. And we always hope we have more meritorious acts. Let's work harder. Ah. So Mary said, by inputting guilt into our minds, some religions try to control us. Search for the truth, and the truth will free you. Yes, very, very good, Mary. Very, very good. We have to understand we are all fallible. And many times we already recognize what we did was wrong. We know that. But we also know that we can take action to make it better. We can always improve our situations. It's not saying poor me, or like in the priests in the past used to punish themselves physically,
Yeah.
thinking it would be good, because it's not. The self punishment don't help at all. But positive acting, yes, this is what helps. Thank you so much, both of you. Very good. Let's
So,
move on. Number
yeah.
two. What can we talk about number two? Two and
So,
three.
Nora, you're muted.
I wasn't saying anything, but yeah, so the idea of a number two, right? Talking about what is like the perfect happiness, and what does imperfection mean? And I think again, this is a really important step for us, that the spirits are helping us, like you said, Angie, because sometimes we think, oh, when I see this a lot, maybe on social media, and pardon me to use such a materialistic example, but it sure is, all you see is sometimes people only show, right, that part of themselves. And so, we're human too, and we're like, gosh, right, what is really happiness? And so right now in this article number two, they're kind of asking us to once again, don't think about perfection as maybe like a state. It's a spiritual um, state, not this materialistic thing. And so suddenly we start to understand that even what we have or not have, they're not punishments, right? They're things that the spirit is needing, like resources. As a matter of fact, we start to be more grateful for them, because they're the ones that are helping us in our evolution, like yourself, this self-paced. And there's right now here, yeah, I think it's nationwide, the star well, the state exams are coming up for children, and so we have to have them like practice and practice. And one of the best things is when the students are their self-paced, so you put them on a program, you make the questions, right? But the student itself, as he or she is going through that program, figuring out, I tell them it's not about being right or wrong, right, like the perfect. It's about your understanding in the process. And if you got it wrong, if you got that question wrong, how can you do it to fix it? And it's interesting because there might be a student who is working on question number two, and then there's another student who is like finishing the questions, gets them all right. And, so you see the different levels, and it doesn't mean that one is, you have to teach them, don't be happy, because I know that one, they got 100, they had everything worked out, might be super happy, versus the student who only got two right. But if we condition ourselves, like this example of students, like be proud of those two that you got, right? And then the other one too, well, now let's move on to the next step. And I feel like this article is kind of helping us understand the conditions that what we can do in our lives. I hope I did not confuse you
You,
guys.
you know, your example remind me a situation that happened to me last weekend. So I organized this beautiful painting class in
Okay.
a so a friend taught us to learn how to paint, and then we had like 20 something people painting, and it was a lot of fun. And I love all groups, so I was super excited, and I was super excited about learning how to paint. So I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna become an artist. Oh, my God, it was so stressful. I
Mm.
was so stressed. And then my friend is next to me. She's like, Angie, just relax. And then it will be nice. And then I'm like, I cannot relax. I started looking at the others.
Mm.
And most of people were already like I had like half of my my thing there, my canvas white, because I'm still like figuring out. And most of the people, they were already like complete, and I'm like, and then a hilarious portion, like in my mind, my sky was gonna be blue, and then it's gonna drop to yellow. That's because the sun is there, then blue, yellow. My sky became green because I mixed the blue and yellow. So my friend who was the painter, he's like, "Well, Angie, basic blue and yellow, green." But anyway, so he gave me some techniques to make it better. I was able to fix it, and when I learned, you have to learn how to relax even with your mistakes,
Mm,
because if you try to be too perfectionist, it's not good. Life becomes very heavy, very difficult. We start comparing ourselves to our friends. It's horrible. And as you mentioned, our social media, yes, it's terrible, because when we are fine, it's good. We look at the people in fancy cars, in gorgeous places. We're like, oh, nice, 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 nice. But when we are not feeling good, or when we are going through a problem, we look at this and like, oh, I'm the only one who doesn't
mm,
have this.
yeah.
So, in this sense, social media is not good because it brings you down. And but at the same thing, in basic things like this painting, if I had to relax a little bit, focusing my thing, that my green sky, let's fix my green sky without too much stress. Maybe it's my sky, but maybe my sky can be green. What's the problem? My sky being green. I'm different. But
Sometimes the sky is green.
me some time to be able to relax. And when I did it, I finished it, and I was in love with painting. But I have to say the process was stressful, but when I got it, it was like a blessing for me. So life, it is like this. It's a process of learning, accepting, and understanding there is no perfect spirits on earth unless they are missionaries. We are not there. So this brings us to number two. Perfect happiness belongs exclusively to the state of perfection. And because there is no state of perfection on earth, we
Mhm.
only have a temporary perfection, or what we think is perfect. And what is perfect for me is not perfect for somebody else. But that's the important thing. Our planet is not an advanced one. So this is normal to be imperfect. And there is beauty in being imperfect, because,
Mm,
as we mentioned, we are all imperfect in different things. And we also have our beautiful gifts. And this is what completes us. And this is what is beautiful. Can you imagine if every single person were extremely talkative as me? I wouldn't be able to keep up with this person, because I would be, we would be fighting. No, wait, it's my time to talk. Crazy. So it's good that we are different. It's beautiful, but it's hard for us to understand that and to accept that. But we are going through it. Number three, what can we say? Every imperfection of the soul produces its own inevitable share of pain. He writes suffering, but I like to say pain.
yeah. So the amount of punishment is proportional to the amount of imperfection. So again, we're not being victimized. That is our imperfections are going to equal what we are feeling as punishment, but it's not really punishment. It's just an equalizing, right? It's a learning opportunity.
Yes,
And
exactly.
you guys described it so well. We keep an open mind, we apply some effort, we stay with it, and we come out the other side, or we can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then
Number 4. Oh, sorry. When I said
No, I was just going to say you brought that up already, Angie. You talked about the law of progress and how none of us are going to regress. A spirit doesn't regress. We can stagnate a little, or a lot, but all of us are doomed to progress and perfection. So we're all going to get there, which I think is the most comforting and consoling
yes,
message. One of them that Spiritism brings us.
yes.
It's,
This is
it's really nice to know that I'm not going to become a demon someday. You know.
yes. 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 Let me see what Juan wrote. So Juan said, spirits end up understanding that progress and a better situation is entirely up to them. They understand that suffering will be perpetual unless they put up an end to it. Perfect one. Exactly. That's exactly what we're saying. We are the ones who have to stop victimizing ourselves. Yes, maybe the condition we are right now is not very good, but we have to be strong and say, okay, what can I do to improve? And as you said, spirits, when we become a spirit, it's easier to make this point faster. When we
Hmm.
are still incarnated, it's harder. That's why spiritism helps us to have this awaken, like we read and we understand about our free will. We have free will to do everything. Are we forbidding under spiritists to do this or that? No, we are not forbidden of anything. You can do whatever you want. You have to face consequences as life. You have to face consequences. But there is no one telling us you're forbid to do that, forbid to do this. And the free will helps us to move uh, good faster or slower, but we are all gonna progress. But depends on us how fast we wanna do it. So number 4, in virtue of the law of progress, each spirit having the power to acquire good qualities which he lacks and to rid himself of the bad ones. Yes, it's pretty much connected with this one that we said. We are the ones who have to make the effort to get rid of something bad. Imagine people like me that have a tendency to talk a lot in the past. Yeah, no, oh my goodness. I arrive in a place, I arrive in a doctor's office, everybody is silent. My first gut is to start, okay, my name is Angela, what's your name? Where are you from?
Mm.
It's not the perfect place to do that, Angela. Control yourself. But it's usually people that have this tendency of talking a lot in the past, or maybe even in this life, they have a tendency to be gossipers, you know? And we know gossip is something terrible. So we have to channel our our capacities to what is good. So I became a public speaker because now I try to speak of good things instead of bad things. I try to spread good words instead of bad ones. So we need to understand ourselves. Know thyself. What are your problems? What are your issues? What we have to get rid. So
Mm.
let's work on it. Let's get rid of what we know is not that good. We have so much that we don't know, but if you already figure out something it's not that good, that's a work on it. That's a work on it.
Yeah.
Okay, Nora, number 5.
All right. For five, what came to mind was kind of like the extremes or the way that we connect. Like it says here, pain or suffering is connected with imperfection and enjoyment with excellence. And so, of course, like you said, when we're and everything's fine, that's great. But with this mindset, when things are not well, we make that connection to imperfection. And so it says here, now we feel like, oh, I'm being punished again and again. This idea of all the sinners go to hell, right? And all the angels and the good people go to heaven. These associations that we have, and bigger question for us. Well, and what can I do? Like, what is this gonna take if I'm in that still in that position? Like, I mean, I was raised Pentecostal, so literally as a child, this was instilled in me. And, it took a lot of years to, get rid of these ideas that, if something bad happens, I'm being punished. And the first thing that comes out of your mouth, like, why doesn't God love me? And then the guilt if you don't do everything 100% right, again, this idea, oh no, I'm going to go to hell. And so that's a lot of pressure to live with. And in a sense, this is such a merciful article in this code, because hey, you can let go of that, relax, like you said, Angie, that's the word for today. Relax, it's not like that at all. And man, when I remember when that changed in me, it was this release. It was a huge release. I have no words, but it was so hard. I remember when I was a child too, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go to hell because my parents, we talk, I talk back sometimes. That was my thing as a child. I needed to talk back, so of course my parents would need to take care of that. And then when I understood the lesson, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna go to hell. So
With me was funny because I knew I was not bad enough to go to hell, but I didn't want to go to heaven because I found heaven too boring.
Mm.
In
oh
that
my
reason, I'm like, no, 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 heaven, no, thank you. But in that time, had the limbo. How do you call the middle?
Purgatory. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh
And then I was like, I think it's okay. And then I remember priest telling me, but you are gonna burn in the big pots forever. I'm like, but I don't think it's that hot.
oh my god.
Oh my god. I was so bad. And but the thing is that because I was always questioning, I didn't like that. I didn't like the forever thing. I didn't like the idea that if you did one mistake, for whatever big it is, you had to be going through something forever. And then another thing that spiritism clarifies to me and was so extremely important is that heaven, or what we call the blissful states, or the enlightened planets, for example, is not that the boring thing that you are playing the harp and nothing happens and just the white clouds. No, heaven is an active place where the good spirits are helping others to become good. So you are always working, you are always busy, you're always doing something, you're always studying. And it's very funny because for me in the past, always studying, oh no, I study here, but when I die, I want to be forever on the beach.
Hmm.
So it's up to us also to learn, because when we learn certain things, then it makes sense and we start like, oh, this makes sense. And then we actually we start enjoying that. And spiritism made so much sense to my mind. It really cleared so many items. That was like a whew, thank you so much. Teresa, what can we talk about six?
So we can. I think it's important, though, to bring out about number 5 that the soul bears within itself its own punishment. And this is where Spiritism teaches us that our conscience, and I think you said it earlier, Angie, is that our conscience, it's going to be us, our own conscience judging ourselves. So it's not going to be this, old man in a white beard, you know, hitting us with a ruler or whatever. It's going to be our own conscience. And I think it's in chapter 5, Blessed are the afflicted. One of the spirits tell us that there is no absolute happiness on earth. It doesn't exist at this time, but we can experience a relative happiness, which is a clear conscience. So it is that getting to know thyself. And some people might see when it says that we bear within itself our own punishment. So I'm thinking, oh, I'll go easy on myself. But no, when we're in the spiritual realm and we don't have that coarse body on us, we see things the truth and we feel the emotions. It's not dampened down by the body. So we're not going to be so easy on ourselves thinking that, oh, I'll just excuse myself. Our conscience, our that part, that God connection is there.
Yeah.
So number 6 is so they're pointing out here, I think one of the main point is not doing good whenever we can is therefore the result of some imperfection. So we can understand that the spirit must suffer not only for the evil it has done, but also for the good that it has failed to do. And I think it was St. Paul that told us that. I'm not able to put my finger on at the moment where that resource is, but I'm pretty sure it was St. Paul told us that we will be responsible for the good that we do, that we leave undone. So when you have a thought or something comes to your mind to do something good, I've always been encouraged to do it, because when we sit and think about it, we won't do it. We'll,
Yeah.
we'll talk ourselves right out of it. So to act on it when we know it's a good thing and we feel this impulse to do something, we should really act on it.
Yes, yes, totally true. Totally true. My goodness, we only made the 6 items. 33. Yes, that's really hard. I'm like, okay, how we can make this? I'm just thinking like, I think next program we have to kind of summarize the most important items to be able to talk, because to every single one is so good, but they are very touching, and then yes, we take time to go through them to fully understand.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to summarize and talk to few important points, because they are all very important. I would love to have you both again next month, because you already read, you already studied. So we could do it again as a continuation to finalize it. So instead of going one by one, we would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's about this. And then we are able to comment the most important ones.
Sounds good.
It's
Can you come next week?
Oh,
next month.
Next week, next month, next month.
Next month, yes.
Hopefully we have
yeah.
a lot of time, but would it be easier because you both already read the chapter. But let's see.
We'd
Anyway,
be honored.
Thank you. Yes.
it
Thank
would be
you.
awesome. I would
Yes.
love to have you girls with us. So
Thank
now we
you.
have a few moments, and we are gonna go through this other beautiful book. This one here. Let me show this here. So this is What is Spiritism. This is another book that very few people read. It's not very thick. It's really a summary of Spiritism. It's a beautiful book. And we are going to just like read one of the questions. So in this portion of the book, Kardec is answering lots of questions. And this question is from a priest, and I kind of highlighted a summary to make it faster. Although we never end anything in 1 hour, we think 1 hour is so long, but we
Yeah.
never end
Yeah.
anything in 1 hour. So I highlighted the most of the important things, but we can continue and comment. So in this question, a priest is talking to Kardec about, and he wants to talk about reincarnation. And then Kardec basically says, listen, it's too long of an explanation to make a comparison of reincarnation to metempsychosis. And then he says, okay, I'm going to give you a little summary. So, just to the ones that don't know, metempsychosis is that understanding from the past that when you do something wrong, if you kill someone, for example, you are going to reincarnate as an insect. This is the understanding that it still happens in the most of India, in the Hindi culture. It's not everywhere, but it's in India, it's still very much strong. But in the past, it was a much bigger understanding. So Kardec gives us explanation. So Nora, could you read the yellow? That's the question from the priest.
Sure. It says reincarnation seems more difficult to reconcile with dogma because it is nothing more than metempsychosis taken afresh from Pythagoras.
Very good. And Teresa, so Kardec gives this big explanation, but read just the yellow, that's more or less like the highlight of his explanations, so we can comment.
The metempsychosis of the ancients consisted in the transmigration of human souls into animals, which would imply degradation, not commonly believed, but temporary punishment. After a few thousands, after a few thousand of years, according to the culpability of this kind of prison, the soul would re-enter humanity.
Okay, so what we understand here, that's what I just mentioned. This was the belief from the past where would happen this transmigration from a human being going into an animal or into an insect because of some kind of debt. But even in that time, in the 1800s, this was pretty much connected to a temporary punishment. Was not a permanent thing. Was for some time. As we see, they understood it was like for some thousand years, and then it would go back into humanity. And then here we are going to start understanding what is according to Spiritism. So, Teresa, you can continue.
Oh, sure. The plurality of existences, according to Spiritism, differs essentially from metempsychosis in that it does not accept the incarnation of souls into animals, even as a punishment. The spirits teach that the soul does not regress, but that it progresses continuously.
Very good. So this is what we were actually talking about. We just mentioned that we are always progressing. We can reach to a time that we're kind of lazy. We don't make good improvements, but we are always progressing. We don't regress. And according to the spirits, when you go into an animal state, you're regressing because the human mind is already developed. You cannot regress. So this is it's very good for us to understand. Nora, could you continue reading because I didn't finish the highlight. So let's just read through it.
Oh, yeah, and just before, like, I even thinking about this from like an evolutionary perspective of like species too. Like, we don't even our DNAs. We all have our separate ways, the phylogenetic trees. So it goes so much hand in hand with the science, and that's the lovely thing about spiritism. So, all right. Do I go? It's different corporeal lives there.
Yes, yes.
Different corporeal lives take place in humanity. Each existence is a step forward on its path of intellectual and moral progress, which is quite different from metempsychosis. Not being able to acquire full development in one sole existence, frequently shortened by accidental causes, God allows it to use a new incarnation either to finish the task it was unable to finish or to start over what it had done badly. Expiation in the corporeal body consists of the tribulations one endures while in it. As for the issue of knowing, oh, as for the issue of knowing the plurality of existences, or it's not contrary to certain dogmas of the church, I will limit myself to saying that one of the two things is true: either reincarnation exists or it does not. If it does, it is within the laws of nature. In order to prove that it does not exist, we would have to prove that it's contrary not to dogma but to such laws, and that we can find another law that would explain more clearly and logically the questions that only reincarnation can solve.
So like if we go here, for example, we have just a tiny little piece, so let's just finish it.
Moreover, it is easy to demonstrate that certain dogmas find a rational endorsement in reincarnation that renders them acceptable to those who used to reject them because they did not understand them. So it's not a matter of destroying, but a matter of interpreting. This will only occur later by necessity. Those who will not accept the interpretation will be perfectly free, as they are today, to believe that it is the sun that revolves around the earth. The idea of the plurality of existences is becoming popularized with the astonishing speed because of its sound logic and its conformity with God's justice. Once it is acknowledged as a natural truth and accepted by everyone, what will the church do?
Mhm.
It's okay. You want to read Teresa? Go.
Yeah, yeah, that's the end.
Oh, that's the end. And what?
So, Teresa, could you read the summarizing?
Sure. In sum, reincarnation is not a doctrine invented for the needs of a cause, nor is it a personal opinion. It either is or isn't a fact. If it is demonstrated that there are certain things that are materially impossible without reincarnation, we must accept the fact that they are the result of reincarnation. Because if it is a part of nature, it cannot be annulled by an opposing opinion.
Very good, very good. So, what can we talk about this portion? Like, like reincarnation for me, for example, is something so obvious that it's even hard to think about life without reincarnation. Like every time that I see good things, like we see so many little tiny kids that are extremely amazing pianists or mathematicians. You have these little kids that they can resolve things in their minds. It's like, wow. And even like when a child also is born without limbs already brings me to idea of reincarnation, what might have happened. So it brings me away from the idea of the God that punishes, but it brings to the idea what I have done, what this child have done, and what this other one have done. Because
Mhm.
we know God is merciful. So it's not that God is pointing fingers and saying, okay, you will be a phenomenal pianist and you are going to be born without both arms. It's not like this. So
Yeah.
what is it for you girls? How did you connect? Did you have doubts or did you have understanding of reincarnation in the past?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I did. I suspected reincarnation because I understood not totally, but the idea that energy never dies. So I thought, okay, so this must mean that we continue living. But I too was into these conditions. Maybe I come back as a cat. I didn't know, and Spiritism helped me to understand that no, once we keep evolving and our soul passes from one kingdom to another kingdom, it would be regression to go back. So to understand now I'm in a human soul, human spirit, and so I as I reincarnate, I'm going to come back as a human. That made sense, and it was a sense of relief to have a better understanding, and then to come to see reincarnation as an opportunity. That it's an opportunity, like you said, Angie, that God is so merciful to help me to grow my soul, and like you alluded to here, what Emmanuel has told us in Thought and Life. We fly by two wings. So not only the moral but the intellect as well, is that as we perfect ourselves and grow ourselves in virtue, and then also educating ourselves, we can fly more balanced with the two wings. And that's what reincarnation affords us, that opportunity to develop those wings.
yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that's what he's strong. So for me, it was a relief because I suspected we didn't really die, but I didn't have all the pieces. So Spiritism helped to fill in the blanks.
Yeah. And Nora, how was for you?
So for me, and again, just since we're relating this to our personal connection, growing up in this very religious environment, and then finding out that, I'm part of the LGBTQ community, I always thought that there was something wrong with me. And
Mm.
I always thought literally like, God, like, what did you do wrong with me? Like, what's going on? And just coming to that idea of who I was, and then when we learn about reincarnation, when I learned about reincarnation, I was like, it really helped me to understand what that means to me and to appreciate it because of spiritism, right? But that example, I think I have also substituted with other things in life that help me to understand. So I can imagine a lot of us too, depending on our different levels of in experiences, we start to understand how reincarnation is a beautiful, it's a beautiful love that God has for each of
Yeah,
us to understand ourselves, and come to that beautiful relationship. And it actually did it helped to build a deeper connection with God and understand Jesus. And I was like, it was a process, but once it was an understanding, it was very healing. I hope that makes sense.
Mm.
yeah. No, this for me too. For me too. Like I also, I really didn't, I really didn't know I didn't know much about the reincarnation, but I believed we could come back. And of course, I was watching any kind of movies
Mhm.
about it. And I remember one movie was very funny. A guy died and he didn't want to die, and then he was able to come into the body of somebody else, and he temporarily kicked the spirit of the person out. And he stayed. And I was like, wow, that's different. And but I didn't understand spiritism, so I thought, oh, maybe this is possible. That's crazy. And what is the spirit of that other poor guy? So it was very confusing. And
Mhm.
I didn't have any base because my whole family Catholic, and any type of thing about spirits were like crazy people. We don't deal with crazy people. And I'm like, oh, I like crazy people. So I I was able to be able to discover spiritism, and for me this was like, oh, thank God, there was a blessing for me. So Juan mentioned something here. So he said, to each according his or her deeds in heaven as well on earth. Such is the law of divine justice. Yes, Juan, very good. It is true. It is true. That's why we have to live our life trying to improve every day, trying to help others. And the it's a very solid base of spiritism is charity. We know that when we are charitable, we are doing good, but we are receiving so much more. What happens is that we don't see it. We, in our minds, we are physically doing something for person A. We hope person A is going to do something to us. But we
Mm.
understanding in spiritism is not like this. We should do charity without expecting the person A to give me anything. We
Mhm.
shouldn't do because we are expecting to receive. But we receive anyway. Maybe person A is not gonna even be grateful, but then person B, C, in so many spirits, they will be grateful and they will start helping us. We have so many books of Andrea Lewis, for example, that we see passages of spirits that were grateful for a person, and they tried to do the best they could to help that person. So that's why many times there is a beautiful doctor that he wrote a book. I don't remember what's the title now, but the book says it is good to be good. That's
Mm.
one of the main sentences. And he explains that physically, because our organism, our physical organism, action and works in a better way, because our brain cells, they work like stronger. There is the serotonin. There are so many things that I don't know the names, but he explains beautifully how it's really good to be good. So we in spiritism we understand that we are vibrating love. So when we vibrate love, we receive love, and that's the main point, and that's what it's so helpful for me. It's like I love it. I love when we can talk about, and I love you girls being with us. I
Mm,
love you both for, my God, for so many years. Teresa, my God, I don't even know how many years I know Teresa from Inner Enlightenment in Manhattan. And Nora, I think when I started the program on Kardec Radio, we met so
mm,
many years ago. I think it was
Mm.
when I moved to Florida, like almost 7 years ago. It's a long time. So super, super good to see
mm.
both
Me
with
too.
so much knowledge of spiritism and applying into your life. So this is awesome. I love it. And I love all of you that participated with us. Juan, you have to be my guest. Juan.
Mhm.
Juan lives here in Miami. He's my neighbor. Let's see if he can come.
He's
Juan.
he's saying one of the points though of the future penal code, because they point out that suffering, we can suffer in heaven as well as on earth. And so because so many people believe, oh, when I die, then I dance with the angels or I go and rest. And but know that just on as it's happening here, it's happening there. So Juan was reading ahead.
Yes. Very good. Very good.
Thank
So
you, Angie. It's always fun to be with you.
I love having you all here. I love having everybody here too. Thank you, Erica. She says amazing. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So let's do our final prayer. Teresa, could you please do our final prayer?
Of course, my pleasure.
Thank you.
So let us take a deep breath, connect ourselves to the floor, to Mother Earth, relax our mental bodies, open our hearts, and let all the wise words we shared and heard this evening, the lessons, let them wash over us. And we say thank you to our Mother, Father, God, to the good spirits who have joined us, to the spirits who have come to learn besides us, and even those spirits who are here that maybe don't like us so well. We say thank you for attending, thank you for guidance, inspiration, and let us go forward into our weeks as beacons of light, thinking about our many lives and how we can put this one to best use. We thank you, Mother, Father, God, for the opportunity for the sacred life we are experiencing. And let us send prayers to our brothers and sisters who may be facing some harsh trials right now, feeling abandoned, maybe those who are thinking of quitting their lives. We pray that they may be receptive to receiving the divine light and love that surrounds them. We thank you so much, and thank you to all who have come to share in this study tonight. Uh, Let us ask it with humility and respect for blessings as we ask permission to close this study, and so be it.
So be it.
Let's see what it is.
Very good. Thank you so much. It was really a
Yeah.
blessing to have all of you here with us. The ones that are in Miami, remember that next week on the 11th, on April 11th, is a Tuesday, we are going to be passing a movie in Mia Inner Light. We are
Mm,
going to watch a movie that's a beautiful movie. It's a real story that happened in the US, and then we're gonna have pizza. So it's in right after we are gonna have a discussion about the movie. So I will send the name of the movie to you girls. You probably have seen. It's Yesterday's Children. It's an absolute
mm,
fantastic movie. It's a real story. And the most important thing is about reincarnation. And this
mm,
lady was able to meet her kids from her previous life. That was
Awesome.
amazing.
I'll
So
have to watch it. I haven't seen it.
you have to
Thank
watch
you.
it. You have to
Mm.
cry like crazy. And
Yesterday's children.
really fantastic. So thank you, everybody. I see you
Thank
guys soon.
you.
And
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Nice to see you,
talk to you
Nora.
soon.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
you,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot.
All right. Many blessings.
Love you.